Very much for the invitation to come here to Poland and speak about the Norwegian Equestrian Federation and the way we deal with our riding clubs. I actually entered this conference to come and learn, and then 2 days later I was asked to come and present something, so that's maybe that's the same for a lot of people here. My name is Kjell Myhre. I am the development consultant in the Equestrian Federation. This one. First of all, I could like to start with saying that we have a 100 years anniversary this year, which means that we are quite old. We're not so new in this equestrian family, and actually Norway was one of the members founding FEI in 1921. Today I'm going to talk about 3 different topics. First, some facts and figures from the Norwegian Federation, and then about the riding club, its organization, the role, and how it works. And then I will look into some what we call current challenges and some measures that we have thought of and how we can find a sort of a model that works in the future. Norway is a small country. We're only 5 million people altogether. So, but we have 35,000 members and 380 riding clubs, 17 regions, and like Carl Müller said, we have a country with regions, and you see riders with license to compete, not license to kill, 6,500. We have introduced a green card. In order to take a license, everyone needs to have a green card. And from 2002, when we started doing that, until last year, we had 20,300 people doing that. We have approximately 20,000 horses registered in the database. National competition, 620. And then it says regional, national, and what we call elite competitions, which is like competitions qualify for going to international shows and things. And the last line here, that's what we call local, sort of club competitions, with no requirements to a license, no requirements for the horse to be registered as well. Yep. I want to say, before I talk more about the riding club, I have to say, maybe it's not so complicated as the Belgium organization. Norway is unique in the world. I think it's the only country in the world where we have one organization, which is the Olympic, the Paralympic, and the Confederation of Sport in one and same organization. It's the same board, the same organization. And that's what it says here. And that's also, of course, the National Olympic Committee. And I make it short, NOC. So the NOC of Norway has like 2 million memberships, 54 different sport federations, and the Equestrian Federation is number 12 in terms of size. It goes from 10 to 12, and what I want to stress from the Norwegian point of view is that in order to become a riding club in Norway, you have to become a member of the National Sports Federation. So if there is a group of people who wants to become a riding club, they don't apply to the Equestrian Federation, they apply to the regional confederation of sport in their district, and then they have to fulfill some criteria in order to become a riding club. And when they are approved, the regional confederation of sport sends email today, not a letter anymore, to the Equestrian Federation and ask us to take them in. And if everything is okay, we do that. And most of the time, that's okay, no problem. And that again, if it doesn't work, if they don't do what they should do, is not the federation, the Equestrian Federation, but it's the Sport Federation who delete them from the list. And this whole system is with the regional confederation is that because they take them in and they can delete them, they are also responsible when it comes to what we call organizational issues. So if a riding club has questions regarding their board, regarding their general assembly, how they should run it, how they should do all these organizational issues, they should call this office and not the Equestrian Federation. Of course, we will help them as well, because we know a little bit about it too, but it's the correct way to go there. So we can concentrate on the equestrian sport, the general regulations for equestrian sport, the discipline rules and things like that. Yeah, I didn't forget, but here FEI came in just to tell that we also have to do with them. And I also added that we have 9 different disciplines. I call this the Norwegian sport model. First of all, because it was one unit for everything. So it's like one main body. What is very different from a lot of other countries is we have only membership. There's a clear distinction. If you're a part of Norwegian sport, it's to do with membership, it's nothing to do with client, and it's nothing to do with customers. You understand? So if a trainer talks about its customers, that's not what we would like to do in our federation. It's their athletes, not their customers. It's hard in the equestrian world, but we are very clear about it, and we try to do that. It all has to do where the money comes from. We get a bit of funding from the Ministry of Culture, and of course, the money that goes to the federation cannot go out to private enterprises. And also in Norway, like Belgium at least, the national events, competitions, are only run by riding clubs. That means there are no private show offices in Norway, except for the international ones. The international, like Oslo Horse Show and things like that, they are international limited companies because it's so much money involved and you can't take that responsibility for a local riding club. And that's the same if you think about officials. I mean, FEI have, you know, the daily allowance and things like that. In Norway, we earn less. All these things, because everything has to do with voluntary work. Yeah, so the riding clubs, member of the Norwegian Federation, after they have been approved by the Sport Federation, they are all independent legal entities. And that means they have to be registered in the national register for all sort of organizations, companies, whatever. They have an organizational number. They all have to have a bank account. And soon they will also have to have an email address because it's a nightmare to get in touch with them. They also have, because, as I told you from the beginning, that they all have to be a member of the Sport Federation, they have common statutes. They can't make their own statutes. It's the same for everyone. And they have the same rules for the board, the task of the board, how the General Assembly should be run, and things like that. And then also, in addition to that, we have some clear... All clubs has to have an insurance regarding, financial, problems, that someone is taking money from the club and things like that. We have all people who are involved with people below the age of 18 need to have a certificate from the police. And they all also have to have had a sort of general assembly and a valid board for the last year. Okay, what are the riding clubs doing? This is the ideal way of a riding club, which we call, these are the definition of what we call sustainable riding clubs, which is if a club should do what we expect them to do, then they should be this. They should be an arena for sport development. What do we mean by that? Yes, like someone else said, all the riders, the top riders we have today, they started in their local riding club. And here is where they started. Here had their first lesson, the trains, you know, everything started from there. And then they should be able to climb the ladder. And after a certain level, we should have them onto a regional level. And then we should have them onto a national level. And then international. A social arena for children and youngsters is very important because the money we get from the Ministry of Culture is to do with a lot of children and youth, that they should have a good place to be. And also people with disabilities, people with learning difficulties. The stable can be used to a lot of other things than riding. It's a good place to learn different topics and a good place to be. Also for people who need job training, it's a brilliant place to be. We should also offer non-competitive activities, and that's to do with the members. If you're a member of the riding club, not everyone competes. Not everyone has their own horse. And if you want to keep your members, you need to do something to keep them. So you need to do other activities. You can have member meetings, you can have lectures about veterinary issues, horse welfare, you know. Or you could have shows for Christmas where they dress up and do funny things, and yeah, I'm sure you know what I mean. And of course, they should organize competitions and shows. And what we have realized, especially in Scandinavia, and there's a research in Sweden saying that the stable and the horse is a management school for girls and for women. And if you do, in Sweden they did this study, and it proves that a lot of female managers have a horse background. In Norway, a lot of politicians, female, have horse background. Who is in parliament, who is in the big businesses, they have a horse background. So this we can sell, and we could use it as a sort of learning, yeah, you know, the stable as a school of education. And the clubs, of course, should have enough resources, and I don't only mean money, I mean hands, to do what they're supposed to do. They should be able to run the competitions they need to run, etc. Okay, so it sounds very good, but this is not the way it is. This is the way we want it to be. So what's the challenge? Here the challenge is that not all of these clubs, we had 380. I would think we have 150 who makes competitions. So we have clubs with like 10 to 15 people who are not doing anything for anyone, except for themselves. So is that good or bad? But it's a freedom of choice in Norway to be a club, as long as you fulfill the requirements. From the federation, we have had the big discussion, should we aim for bigger clubs to make them more sustainable? But Norway is a very long country, very few people live some places. And maybe there are not so many, and there can still be a good club, even if they're small. Okay, so the challenge, difficult to keep members, and difficult to attract and recruit new members. And the other issue is that the riding clubs are not the place you meet the horse for the first time. Most people start their career as riders in a riding school, and I will come back to that. Yeah, so what do we do in order to make the riding clubs better and to make them attractive for new members? So we have introduced now, or we're going to introduce a new, we call it the quality program, which is a 2-level system. I don't like to call it authorized or sort of authorizing system, but it's more like a system for the clubs who would like to improve. It's not something we do with all the ones who doesn't work or the ones who don't want to do things. It's for the clubs who want to change and to get better. And then, as a tool, we use this, which is called a systematic club development. And you see this wheel? This is Norwegian. In the middle, it says member. And then I've translated to the right there. And you see organization, trainers, club management, events, activities, and premises. This is this. If one of these do not work, then it's not complete for the member. You see? If you don't have any premises or facilities, it's difficult to do competitions, it's difficult to do activities. If you don't have trainers, how can you train riders, teach people, improve? If you don't have an organization, how can you run a competition? Yeah. If you don't have a management, It's difficult to plan, it's difficult to run, it's difficult to everything. So what we're doing now is that we are introducing this program. And of course, we will have a meeting with the riding club and say, we will ask them questions. Do you have a trainer? Do you have an agreement with the trainer? What level? Blah, blah, blah. And we could ask, what's your sort of problem or challenge for that local riding club? And then they say, the board for the club is new. Okay, then I can say, we will send a person out and give them a lesson about how to run a riding club. And this is what we will offer from the federation, and we get money from the sport federation to give measures in all the different areas. If they don't have a trainer, we will say you should go to the coach system we have. You should enter the person to the coach system in the federation. And then, of course, we have a lot of carrots for the riding clubs who manage to do all this. And then we have said that the two different levels I talked about, the blue one was the lowest level, which you could call like developing club or development club, which is a club who wants to start on something, or a progressive club, you can call it. And the green one was we call like a guide or a star club or a guidance club or something, because we also want the green club to be assisting other clubs. So the blue club could come and stay with the green club during a show, learn how they run the show, and learn from each other. Okay, then back to the riding schools and the recruitment, because like you saw on the previous one, that 70% of all riding schools in Norway is run privately. So historically or traditional, the Norwegian Federation has, of course, we known about the riding school, but we haven't really had the sort of close relationship with them, unless there are riding schools run by the clubs. So what we are doing now is that trying to make a project where we look at what's the synergy of the collaboration or the synergy of working together for the riding schools, the riding club, and for the federation. And for us as federation is, of course, to get new members. Because if you take all the members riding in the riding school, if they become members of the federation, we think that we could at least increase by 10,000, 20,000 new members. So here's just so if you look at the right, we're 35,000 today. By doing measures and work together, we hope that that will increase our number of members. And then, of course, it's easy to say, but what should we do? Why should the riding school be interested in working together with a riding club? And why should the riding club be interested in work with a riding school? And we think we know. I just do it quickly. So we have to work on each three. We have to do measures from the federation. And first of all, we have to make riding school not a part, but something we should, when we do new activities, we produce new competition formats and things like that, we should think about the riding schools. Of course, we should think about the riding club, we already do. And this is the same more or less, because some of them are publicly owned. And then, of course, we have to do some internal measures to do that, make sure we have enough people, where we have enough knowledge what we're doing. And then the riding school, of course, has to take care of its own riding pupils and the people who ride in the riding school, but they should also do something into the cooperation which they're supposed to do with the riding club. And then the club should do the same. And if I'm a riding school, I have 300 children riding each week. I will give all of them to the riding club. Then the riding club increases members by 300 members. What can I get back to the riding school? And then the riding club can say, okay, because we are a riding club, we can apply for money from the federation to make more activity. We can apply for money to buy equipment, fences, dressage rails, which we can use in the riding school, so we can have more activities, and we can run competitions together not only riding school shows, which is run by the riding school, but we can make that gap between riding school and riding club, or between riding school and the sport, less and not so difficult. And then by doing that together, I think there is a big synergy. And hopefully that will give us, the increased number of members. This was a short, what we are struggling with at the moment. But what we see is that cooperation is good. And of course, if this works, we would think that this is an interesting project for a sponsor, especially the quality program for the riding clubs. If we could call the different levels like company brand and then level 1, company 2, something. They've done that in athletics in Norway, which I worked with together with, and football. The Football Association in Norway is doing exactly the same. They have 3 levels of clubs. Okay, I think that was the last. Yeah, thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you very much, Kjell. Any questions? Yeah, I know the question, I think. Mr.
Tak jest, poproszę tylko o przetłumaczenie. Jak rozumiem, w Norwegii też na przykład już na wysokim poziomie w mistrzostwach Norwegii nie może wystartować zawodnik, który nie jest członkiem klubu. Czy to się zgadza?
At a higher level, we understand from your presentation, it's not possible anybody without club membership to start in a high competition.
Okej. I teraz ta druga część, to pytanie. Czy gdyby w Norwegii powstała taka inicjatywa, żeby zawodnikom bez przynależności klubowej pozwolić startować na wysokim poziomie, to czy on jako przedstawiciel federacji byłby za tym i dlaczego? A jeżeli przeciwny, to dlaczego?
The question is the same as for Belgium Federation. What is your opinion if anybody proposed this solution to start without membership? What is your mind? It's a good or not good, and why?
For me, that's simple, because we belong to a federation. And as I started to say, this is a membership federation. And in Norway, either you're part of Norwegian sport or you're not part of it. And if you want to compete, you need to be a part. So it's not an option, not for any sport. And I think that's the only way it works. Otherwise, we have problems in Norway, not problems, but the challenge has been like all these training centers for everyone goes to. They, of course, are outside the sport federation. The trotting association and the racing business is outside the federation because they are betting and is not part of Norwegian sport. And I think we have to be very clear about who is part of the system, who is getting back something from the system. Because otherwise, it's the same with FEI. If you want to compete internationally, you have to be licensed from the FEI. You can't just go to an international show. And it's to do with, I told you that we have a green card. All riders who compete needs to take the green card. That means to do horse welfare, horsemanship, and if you climb the ladder, you learn more about anti-doping, more about horse welfare, more about everything. And the day we send them out to international shows, we know at least that they have some skills that have been fulfilled and that they learned something. Yeah.
More question? Yep. Our lawyer, not liar.
So what the legal form in which the Norway Federation is running? The legal form of running of Norway Federation.
Now the legal, like I said, all riding clubs are independent, judicial.
No, but the question is only about Norway Federation, not clubs. The federation is an association or something else?
Yeah, all sports federation in Norway is member of the Norwegian Sport Federation, and we are like a, what do you call a voluntary organization.
So like
it's like an NGO in a way.
Okay.
Mm.
Thank you very much once more, Kjell, for your presentation and for answering our questions.